How are you doing? You called the Red River Showdown this past weekend. After upsetting Oklahoma, is Texas finally back? Could you make that bold of a statement?
Well, listen, for Texas, you want to be back competing for and winning Big 12 championships, competing for and potentially winning national championships. That's when they're going to be fully back. But you can say that they're back in control of the Big 12 conference. In fact, it's very safe to say that the Big 12 championship, in terms of getting to that game this year, goes through Austin, Texas. And the reason you can say that is there's basically four contenders, guys, in this conference. There's Texas, there's TCU, there's West Virginia, and there's Oklahoma. And only one of those teams has a win over any of the others, and that's Texas with two of them, TCU and Oklahoma. They host West Virginia November 3rd. So they're clearly in the catbird seat right now in the Big 12 conference. So I will say this, Jenna, they're back in the driver's seat in the Big 12 conference.
Okay, they're back. They're in the driver's seat. I know there's a lot of things. We could talk about Stoops being fired, Oklahoma's the defense, and we could talk about Murray, the quarterback, the excitement that he brings to college football week in and week out. But I want you to give us a little nugget. I'm off script here, Joe, all right? I want you to take me in the booth, okay? Because the iconic moment, Dicker, the kicker. I don't want to know about your partner. I want to know about Scotty.
Scotty. Yeah, that's right. So for those of you that don't know,
Scotty is.
Yes. For those of you that don't know, that we have a legendary spotter named Scotty, and Scotty is a great friend of Gus. He's become a great friend of mine. He's part of our family now in that booth. But Scotty can double as a hype man. You got to understand that. So when Gus goes for it, man, I mean, Scotty's there, and he's giving punches. He's giving a little roll like this, and then he gives a fist bump in the air. And I was just sitting there watching it, man. It was hilarious. It was hilarious. And then we go to break, and Scotty hits me on the arm, and he was like, "Dicker the kicker." It was great. It was great, man. I mean, listen, the whole scene was amazing, but that just that took it over the top for me personally up in the booth.
It was an iconic moment that I didn't think we were going to get to see. I thought despite Texas having that big fourth quarter lead, when Kyler Murray and the OU offense started rolling the 21 fourth quarter points, I said, oh, we're going to have an iconic moment, a Kyler Murray iconic Heisman moment, either in overtime or if they get the stop. Did you have a similar feeling that Oklahoma was about to steal this away from Texas until that final drive?
Yeah, we see this all the time, right? I mean, we see, Nick, teams go conservative, and they can never get it back. And Texas went conservative offensively after playing so well for 3.5 quarters. They started going conservative, and then all of a sudden, I was like, they're not going to be able to get a first down. They're going to punt this ball away. And if Kyler Murray were to touch the football again, they were going to win. Outside of the 9 seconds they had left at the end of the game. I mean, if he had any amount of time, OU was going to drive down and win that football game. Texas had no answers late because Murray was in full magic mode. The run he had, the one-play drive where he ran it on the sideline, I'm like, are you kidding me? He turned on another gear that I haven't seen from him all season long, whether it's on film or live, and that was the 3rd time we've covered him. So in hindsight, the credit, I think, goes to Tom Herman and Sam Ehlinger, because what they did was something that I normally don't see. They got the aggressiveness back. Their offensive line started winning the line of scrimmage again late in the 4th quarter, and they were able to drive down and get a field goal. That was a huge drive from Ehlinger in Texas. And what happens is it gets lost because of Cameron Dicker making that field goal, because of Murray's 21 points in the 4th quarter. What we lose is the fact that drive from Ehlinger in Texas was a really remarkable drive for what was going on in the game.
All right, Joel, moving on to this week's game. You're heading to Columbus to call Minnesota versus Ohio State. Earlier, we gave Minnesota, I think, a 14% chance to win that game. Ohio State, though, coming off 2. That was pretty high. Buckeyes coming off 2 road wins. Why are they the second-best team in the country in your eyes?
Yeah, so I have met number 2 for a very specific reason, and the reason is that I think that they are uniquely suited to be one of the few teams that can match up with and potentially play with Alabama. This is a team that went on the road at one of the toughest places to play in college football, the whiteout environment, against Penn State, when their quarterback, Trace McSorley, had never lost a home game in his career as the quarterback for the Nittany Lions, and they won without their best player. That's a huge feather in the cap. They've got 2 fourth-quarter comebacks. Dwayne Haskins has been unbelievable in the fourth quarter of those games, by the way. In all the fourth quarter this year, he's 76% with a rating upwards of 225 in the efficiency mark, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's been terrific. Their wide receivers are fantastic. They're explosive on offense, and they can get to the quarterback. I think that's the main reason. They've got 22 sacks on the year, even with Bosa being injured. That's second in the country. They give up too many big plays, but it's their ability to create big plays both offensively and defensively that, for me, make them the second-best team in the country.
All right, Joel, you and me were, I think, the only 2 people that didn't abandon the Jim Harbaugh ship. Since that opening loss to Notre Dame, they've obviously haven't lost, but now they play their toughest opponent since that first game against Notre Dame against Wisconsin. How do you see this game going?
Well, first of all, you've got to understand what Michigan has gotten better at, right? Since the first, really, they played 1 bad quarter of football, and they weren't able to overcome it. For 3 quarters against Notre Dame, they were, I would say, generally the better team in that ball game, but it was the 2 big plays that they gave up early that really put them behind the 8 ball. Ever since then, what you see is the #1 total defense in the country, the #1 yards per play defense in the country, the #1 pass defense in the country. They've got a run game that's getting going. Karan Higdon is 13th in the country, run for just under 120 yards per game. Their offensive line is getting so much better than they were a year ago. Last year, they gave up 2.8 sacks per game. It was one of the worst in the Big Ten. This year, they're second in the Big Ten, giving up only 1.3 sacks per game. So they're much better up front, and Shea Patterson is really the beneficiary of some of that offensive line play. He's got 10 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions since that Notre Dame loss. This is a really good football team that if you start seeing some wins in the next few weeks, namely Wisconsin this week, Michigan State next week, bye week, then Penn State, they win those 3, they're going to be the 5th-ranked team in the country. I'm convinced of it. And of the 1-loss teams, I believe Michigan has the clearest path to a playoff berth. This is a really good football team that a lot of people should start paying attention to. I know everybody likes to have the hot takes about Jim Harbaugh. I'm certainly not one of them. I think he's a great football coach, and this is a team that's primed to make a run right now.
CC couldn't agree with you more, Joel. He's over there going, yeah, there they are. I love Michigan.
Yeah.
Nick Saban had a quarterback decision to make when we started this season between Tua Tagovailoa and Jalen Hurts. Well, it looks like Tua's been historically efficient through 6 games this year. Can anyone slow down this Alabama offense? Looks like Saban made the right choice there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if he had really, Jenna, a decision to make just because it's become so obvious. I mean, this guy is playing remarkable football. This is what's so remarkable for me. You can talk about his numbers. Listen, they're doing extraordinary things offensively. He's doing extraordinary things. I believe when you look at his drive efficiency, he's somewhere like 31 touchdowns and 44 drives as a quarterback. That's insane. But for me, he's taken a program that is in the midst of maybe the most dominant run in the history of the sport, and he's taken them to another level. That's unheard of. You know, players don't normally do that, and this guy has certainly done that for Alabama. They haven't been an offensive juggernaut during the course of this run with Nick Saban. They've only averaged, I think it's right over 35 points per game in their 5 national championship years. But he's taken them to another level. They've got 500 yards in every single game this year. Tua is right now a very clear favorite in the Heisman Trophy race. I'm not ready to say that that's over because October is way too early to start calling the Heisman Trophy over. But this guy's playing as good a football as I've seen in a long time.
All right, Joel, how are you going to follow up Dicker the Kicker this weekend?
You can't.
Okay.
You can only hope to contain Cameron Dicker the Kicker. I got to tell you, it was, like I said, that was pretty remarkable. Even in the break, Gus looks at me, hits me on the shoulder, and he's like, hey, Dicker.
Joel, thanks so much for joining us, as
They're
always.
going down for
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.